This week we're talking about creativity.
When I think of creativity,
our minds go straight to crafts.
Metaphysical.
Creativity is life.
Each of us have these passions.
To create is to live.
To show up.
The creative process.
And the act of doing it together.
And strengths and desires within us.
Is actually what brings us together as people.
And those fuel our actions.
Hello, welcome to Soul Evolution Collaborative. This is Truth Be Told. This is our weekly video series where we get online and get to interact a little bit with you all and pass on some wisdom, I hope, some inspiration, some education, and some fun. So this month we are celebrating Pride. We're calling it the space between, where we are recognizing all of those attributes and aspects of ourselves that may not have been recognized to the fullest extent in the past. And so we are doing our best to recognize and bring attention to all of those great things about ourselves. So a couple quick things. First, you may have noticed that we are both live on YouTube, Facebook, as well as our website tonight, which is a little different. We are playing around with some technology to make sure that we can bring our best experience to you. So we're trying to work some things here, tweak some things here and there, and get this to be the best that we can. So thank you for playing along with us in all of that, and welcome the Facebook crowd tonight, which is pretty cool and new. It's not something we usually do. Anyway, so this month is Pride. This week we are taking a look at creativity, the spaces between celebrating Pride, creativity. How does creativity show up for the LGBTQI plus community, for us as individuals, and for all of us together? How does all of this play out? So that is the deal for tonight. And like the past couple of weeks, we're going to be starting things off with a blessing. If you haven't seen it yet, we have a virtual Pride word wall, blessing wall on our website. So you can add a new blessing each week based on the theme for that week, and we get it put up on this word wall, which is part of this opening ceremony that we do every week this month. So without further ado, our word blessing. Make sure I bring everybody else in here. Tonight, we honor the space in between, knowing that it is not void, but instead houses the strength and resilience of our collective experience. We celebrate those individuals within the LGBTQIA plus community who have and continue to pave the way so that a little more truth and goodness can seep into our collective experience.
Tonight we celebrate and honor the joy of creativity, a creativity that fills the space in between. Creativity that brings love, light, and joy to all aspects of life, the very essence and action of the divine.
Tonight, we celebrate those individuals who live their creativity out loud. Creativity in all its many expressions as seen through the lens of a truly authentic life. We see you, we honor your journey, and we bless you on your continued path.
Happy Pride, everyone. So this week we're talking about creativity. Now, I know sometimes when we talk about creativity, our minds go straight to crafts or painting or some sort of artistic expression. And yeah, that's a really cool part of creativity. But another aspect of creativity, one that we use each and every day, is to show up as your unique, individualized expressions of the divine. Each of us have these passions and strengths and desires within us. And those fuel our actions each and every day. They fuel our ability to create amazing things in this world. Now, Pride Month, we're celebrating all the unique expressions, all of our unique talents, our unique qualities, all these ways of being that give joy and love and life to all of us. So we honor those expressions. We honor that divine creativity within us all. We honor that ability to consciously create, to consciously decide to show up as who and what we are. And sometimes that can be challenging. Actually, for a lot of people, that's challenging a lot of the time. So the focus is to really understand that each of us arrive to the table with our own creativity, our own unique understanding, our own unique expression of the divine. And so as we celebrate this month, as we honor the individuals who have fought so tirelessly for this freedom of expression, this freedom of creativity, we honor that spark that's within all of us. That creative desire that wells up within us to make a difference, to express ourselves, to bring joy, light, and love into this world. And so this week we honor creativity in all its expressions.
Nice work, Reverend Ryan.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I love it. First, I just need to point out that we are all wearing like the identical shade of red shirt in our videos. And no, that was not planned.
It's the collaborative uniform itself.
I think so. I was like standing in front of my closet getting ready to shoot going, wow, I don't usually wear that red polo. But something, I feel like I should wear that red polo.
It's that collective consciousness that's creating through us.
Yeah.
There you go. There.
So I have to start off by saying you like literally took the word, you said it so much better than I could have said it. The idea of, we say creativity and our mind goes to like arts and crafts, like absolutely
Right.
every time. Yep. Arts and crafts. And like, why isn't that a thing? Like it's so much more than that. And why isn't that a thing that's talked about? Like it's supposed to be like understood, but we don't really describe it. Like what else is creativity? So I am super hyped that you brought that up. And I think what's going to be really funny is that like we all talk about that.
Yeah, because I think when like you hear people always say like, "Oh, I'm not creative. I'm not creative."
Yeah.
But we are, and we know
Right.
that especially in this teaching, like we're creating all the time, either by design or by default. And a lot of times it's by default, these kind of pattern ways of being. But kind of taking this idea of creativity out of the little crayon box and putting it into like our arms and legs and our voice and our actions and everything throughout our day. I mean, that's creativity. Like every little bit of that is creating this path of experience. And I think when we realize that we have that power, we have that within us to actually do that our actions and our thoughts and the things that we put our focus on actually kind of guide this path, then it actually is very freeing and very empowering. And then we bring this to life instead of thinking that life is happening to us, that we're able to just intentionally create this. Yeah. So it's just this whole bigger idea of creativity.
Yeah. Once again, it's a spectrum.
It's a spectrum, the spectrum of creativity.
Spectrum of creativity.
Yeah.
I see all the life as like that masterpiece, and every little thing that we do is like one more brush stroke. This choice affects that masterpiece. This choice affects that painting, and always, I love it. Always creating.
Well, and also if you think about it, even in our interactions, how we participate in community, how we build community, how we support one another, all that's creativity.
Yeah.
It's creating this just web of interconnection, and that's creativity too. So, the thought of being able to harness that in really positive ways, that's kind of the goal of spiritual community, For at least is the way I see it.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
By intention. Love it.
Creativity and the individual. So when I think of creativity, I think of two things. One, I think of art and other projects, music, poetry, authors, everything that's considered like art, creativity. But I also think about the metaphysical, the creative process that we talk about in the science of mind. That everything begins with a thought. So we have the thoughts, the creative mechanism, and then the manifestation. I like to tie two of these together for this month when we're talking about the individual. So in the artistic perspective, when an artist is creating something new, they usually have some sort of an image in their mind that they want to create. Starts with the thought, and then they go into the process and develop it, and then they create the finished product. I think quite often it comes out looking somewhat different. That's okay, that's part of the process, and it makes it all the more intriguing and beautiful in its own way that it's able to manifest. Very similar in our individual lives. We have thoughts, and they are planted into our subconscious or the subjective, and then they end up manifesting through our activities and actions that we take. And I think quite often it doesn't end up looking exactly how we thought it was going to. Now back to the art one. Sometimes artists create without necessarily having a full plan in place, but it still always begins with a thought. For me, I'm not much of an artist, but I like to doodle and create designs, and it always starts with one little squiggly line, and then it makes me think of something else, and I'll add another one, and then another one. And when they come out, it was fun. It was a process. I enjoyed the journey, but they're usually not much of a masterpiece. I didn't really have some grand vision because I never really felt that confident in my artistic abilities. I think it's very similar on our individual level with our lives. If we don't have some sort of a vision that we're more moving towards, then we kind of just do a squiggle. We do what gets us through the day. We get what we think might get us through the next part of our life, and we just kind of go through that motion until other things show up. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go for that promotion. I guess maybe I will change jobs and go over there. And sometimes, if we're not super intentional about what we want our lives to mean and what our purpose is, and we kind of just create as we move along. And that's kind of one of my fears. I don't want to end up at the end of my life and look back and see that I just kind of was bounced along on the current. I would like to develop and deepen more into what my journey and my life meaning is and create from that place. So I think that whole thing, it starts with an idea, it goes through us and into our creative capabilities and the actions we take, it creates the final outcome. Usually doesn't come out exactly as we imagined, but that is also part of the uniqueness and the things that make all that is manifested exactly perfect, just how it is. Intention is very important. That is what I'm placing into the importance for the rest of my life. I want to be intentional. Now, if I can remember that every day, I'm on to something. Those days that I don't, I'll be gentle on myself, knowing that really, all of it that we do, that's the journey, that's the creation.
I like how you talk about the squiggle.
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of squiggles in my life. Oh Lord, I think sometimes my squiggles become this big ball. Yeah. No, but I like how you talked about this power of intention and how that kind of infuses this idea of creativity. Because I think sometimes people think, creativity is just kind of this, take it as it comes sort of thing, but this intentional way of being, I think that is what really sparks this power of creativity. So can you talk a little bit more about the intention, please, pretty please?
Well, absolutely. I think you hit it on your segment too, that we go along by, default so often. And if we're just kind of, going by the whims, not the best. But once we, just realize that our thought and our plan really does shape the way we show up, shape what shows up in our life, that intention. So as we become more clear about what it is we want to experience in our life, set our intention to move towards that or to be that, depending on what is, your calling, that the intention definitely starts that whole creative process. And without it, we're just going by default and, kind of at the whim of those around us, the whim of the universe. And
Right.
Intention's powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I really love that idea. Like, so often the way I approach like art is like, I have this, create the container and then we do another layer. And like, I think I have to have like the whole thing understood before I do it. So I know where to put the lines and where everything goes. It's like, oh wait, but that's not how we get anything new.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, that's how we get an idea that's already done and old and put on paper or put on canvas or whatever. But that whole idea of like life being like, life, when we go out and try new stuff all the time, and that's how we, it's those mess ups or those squiggles or the things we think is going to be this, but it turns out that's where anything new even comes from. And that
Right.
just hit in a whole new way. The way, I don't even know if you totally said it like that, but that's what I heard. So it sunk in that way. That was like, oh man, that was really cool. I dig that a lot.
Well, and I think it just calls to like, be more intentional, like this kind of proactive way of being. And I mean, in default way is not always a bad thing, because, we default stop at stoplights, or we default get up and brush our teeth. I mean, without even thinking about it. But like, to create these kind of new defaults, these defaults that are really guiding us toward our next step. I think that, so our default is, instead of lack, it's abundance. Like, we're automatically thinking that our default is love, or our default is joy, or our default is openness. It's like, and so that default kind of creates a lot of space and expansion. Whereas some of these old limiting belief defaults keep us small in that box that you're talking about, for sure.
I love this comment talking about the squiggle, and then the squiggle becomes like this ball, and then it becomes a squiggle monster.
See what you started, Chris?
Right?
That's my art right there. It
The
does.
divine squiggles.
Squiggle monster. But I love that idea. I don't think I have often. I would like to think I've thought of this at some point, but I don't know, maybe not. This idea that we can create a new default that is beneficial to us.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I mean, I tend to think default's always like this negative, like when I don't make a decision, it's this negative thing that steps in. But, imagine if that was like good.
Yeah. Default is just habitual behaviors.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. So we can create really positive, amazing, creative, outrageous, wonderful pattern behaviors.
Sounds like a kid's book. Crazy, wonderful, outrageous, something or other.
You heard it here first.
That's right.
Well, hello there. We are not quite done yet, but I just want to take a moment to say thank you for watching, and also for all the amazing support that we receive all the time. So much love, so much joy, so much sharing of abundance. We are so grateful. We have the most amazing job. I mean, who could ask for anything more to get together with some amazing people and talk about these spiritual truths and principles and how to actually use them in our lives? That's the important part. We can know all this stuff that we want, but to actually use it. And so that's what we're trying to do, is to really provide some practical ways of being and looking at things. So if you feel inspired by anything we're doing and you're like, yes, this is amazing, this is great, we want to make sure that these principles and truths are out in the world as far as we can see, then we would welcome any of your gifts of a sharing of your abundance to support this ministry and support the mission of Soul Evolution Collaborative. So if you feel led to donate, simply hop on over to soulevolutioncollaborative.org and you can click the little donate button. All right, back to the show.
So I have learned over the years that creativity is so much more than just the arts, the act of painting or making music or dancing or whatever artistic forms there are in this world. Creativity is so much more than that. Really, creativity is life. There is a saying, a quote that to create is to live, and to be stagnant is to be dying. And I think that applies really well to this week's theme of creativity and its importance to us as a whole, life as us. What does it mean to create as a collective? Why is that important? And so to realize that life itself is creative, right? Life is change, and change is creative. Change is moving forward. Change is creating more, a deeper expression of life. And so there is this urge within each one of us to do that, to create a greater expression of life through ourselves. And all of this is that creative energy, that same creative energy that shows up in art behind the painting or in music behind the notes. That same creative energy is what we are using moment to moment to create an expression of life, to express more creative energy, and for life to show up in and through us. And so to do this intentionally, to birth new ideas into our experience, this idea of newness, that is what is moving us forward. And so I think this is really important for us as a whole, because if we are not intentionally creating, we become stagnant. Society becomes stagnant. Our collective becomes stagnant, which is potentially dying. Looking backwards is dying. Looking backwards is stagnant energy. We are not making use of that creative energy to move things forward, to move life forward, to progress, and to express a greater idea, the greater aspects of life that are looking to come through us. So not only is creativity that which moves us all, but that act of moving and that act of doing it together is actually what brings us together as people. It is through that activity of intentionally creating where we come together to each other. We come back together. I think there's a call in this to recognize in our daily conversations, in our work meetings, in our emails, in our activities, to recognize the opportunity in this to co-create. What the world is really asking of us is to intentionally engage in these conversations, these activities, in a way that feels like moving forward. You are not meant to remain stagnant. We are not meant to remain stagnant. We are called to move forward together. And so simply to approach every conversation to the best of your ability with this intention of an energy that feels like moving forward. We are creating this opportunity to experience life in a way that brings us back to one another.
Well said. Well said, my man. I love that idea. I think I counted and I heard stagnant like 21 times. The perfect amount of stagnation talk. It definitely got that. It got that point across to me. But I love that idea of where we're going. You know, the whole thing that what Reverend Ryan was saying earlier of how our intention is creating that new default, and that intention now to move into this new, the world around us is changing very quickly, and if we're not changing with it, then that is kind of scary. But opening up to just the wonderful changes that we're seeing, our intention and our purpose is so important there. But how do we do that? How do we continue to do that as a society and to get more people involved?
Yeah. Well, I think that's. I'm glad I said it that many times. It's
Yeah,
I mean, it really is. But I think it really, when I really got down to the nugget of like, hey, what do I want to say in this message? What is the importance of creativity as a collective? I mean, life's going to move forward no matter what. But if, what decides whether we're moving with it or if we're getting like steamrolled over by it, that's our choice, right? Our choice is what determines whether we're creating along with life or not. And so I think it's probably much more simple acts than we think. It can easily sound like this overwhelming task of, needing to change the whole world. But really it's as simple as if we just approach every conversation we have or every email we write or every, interaction, every activity we have, if we look at that as creative, I get to create how this goes. Mm-hmm. If we look at that as forward moving, as life creating, I think there is automatically along with that, this like intentional forward movement that I kind of had this grasp of. It's one of those things like I think we probably knew to some degree, but I don't think I had ever really said out loud until this video, like, oh, yeah, we like literally every conversation is an opportunity to create this new way of being. And so it almost like automatically draws in this energy of let's bring every aspect, this doesn't mean we're like obliterating anything that happened before. It just means that I'm not looking to relive something that already happened. So we can choose to bring part of our experience into the future, into this creation with us. But in doing it now, we're doing it new, we're doing it different, we're doing it the next time, right? It's kind of like when you think of a memory, you now create a memory of that memory. Same kind of thing. Like we're bringing into this experience with us all of that which we want when we're choosing. So when we're not choosing, we're bringing in all that default. And if that default's the negative, we're bringing in the negative. So if we do it by choice, I think we literally get to like choose what we're bringing with us into each activity or conversation or whatever it is. And now we're doing it together. Like if we have, and especially if we are in this conversation about it, we literally get to be like, hey, let's have like a new conversation about this old idea, right? So that seems a whole lot more attainable than needing to like change the whole world, I think.
Well, two things come to mind because I never just have one thing to say. But two things come to mind. What you're kind of describing is integration. So that's what we do. Yeah. That's what we do every day. I mean, if we are continuing to be healthy and moving kind of forward in our lives, we integrate those experiences of our past, whether they're, challenges or triumphs or lessons learned. And so we take it and then we integrate it and weave it into our current experience. And so that's kind of what you're talking about. And it's moving us forward. And it becomes this kind of web and, weaving of all of those things. And we learn and grow and evolve as we do that. And that's what integration is just evolving and transforming all of those experiences. Yeah. And then I like how you talked about change as creativity. I never really thought about that before, but I think that's, yeah, of course it's true. You said it.
Oh, whoa.
No, but in this idea, when we're so resistant to change, so if we're so attached or holding on to an old idea, whatever it may be, and it may be an idea that served us here, but it no longer serves us. But to hold on to that really kind of stunts that creativity. So that when we're open to change, when we're open to this kind of whatever comes in and wanting to have experiences and to grow and to learn and not be attached to an outcome or attached to a specific way of being, then that allows life to like happen through us, like all these creative things. It opens us up to like limitless possibilities. And so possibilities obviously are linked with creativity too. So it really struck me about that idea of linking that change and creativity are really kind of cousins in a way. They do work very closely with one another. So that's pretty cool. Because I mean, who likes change? You know, some people say, "Oh, I love change. I don't mind change." Don't believe a word they say. Change is hard.
You know what's funny about that is I've spent a good deal of time with that idea of, oh, I love change, you know, or being around people who say they love change. The constant there is the idea of change. So if the idea like this, okay, so this is like change to a whole other level, right?
Right.
So if we look at change as if it is the only constant, then that can actually become a crutch to lean on in an unhealthy way, because now it's like we're creating chaos so that everything is always chaotic. So that's actually never changing.
Right.
Because nothing is solid. And so then that becomes comfortable. And that becomes, it's a crazy, we are weird beings, man.
Yeah. Well, we're okay with change if it's something we don't mind being changed. But we're not okay with change if it's something we're really attached to. And
don't ask me to change. Everything else can change. Just
I have no problem changing. But if it's this really, and I think that kind of is a little antenna, a red flag of like those things that we're so dug in about. I think those are those areas that need some further introspection. And I think for me, if there's an aspect, hopefully I do this more often than not, that I'm like, why am I so holding so white knuckled to this idea? And it's always something underneath. And it could be a myriad of different things, but for me, I think those are those strongholds that really block this flow sometimes of creativity and expansion and evolution and transformation. Those little areas where we're not open to change or open to where creativity can kind of weave its way through us.
Yeah. So much just came together for me. All of this with the idea of
change. We're here just for you, Chris.
Yeah.
Change is inevitable. It's always happening around us. But then you'll think about like Gandhi, be the change that you want to see. So as we know that change is happening and that our lives are constantly changing, when we bring that intention in that you talked earlier and go back a couple of weeks to, well, what would love do in this situation? So always asking ourselves, how do I move into this thing that's changing from a place from love, to see more love in this world, to see more of it that we want to be, that then we are flowing with it, with that change, as opposed to the river of change all around us. If we're just painting ourselves, holding on, and the water's beating into us and we don't want to let go, and we're able to move into it and then, correct it, come from that place of love, setting that new default as always going to, what would love do in this case? As I type this email out, what would love respond? And I love it. It all clicked. You two are one.
Work for somebody. It's good. We're good. We're complete now, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I really love that idea that creativity is is intentional change. Like we can approach every new minute creatively, and we are taking part in that intentional creative change of things. That's like, if there was one nugget for me this week, that's the one.
Intentional change. I like that.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Well, thank you everybody for coming and watching this. Thank you, Reverend Chris, for chiming in. We always love hearing from you. Everybody else, if you would like to look at these ideas, at this idea in particular, come see us Thursday night at the Gathering. Go to our website and sign up for the Gathering. You'll get a link, and it's always a deep and enriching conversation. And it's powerful when you set your intention to do this kind of work, to do this kind of change, to look within yourself and clarify what it is that you feel and believe. Man, that is a powerful experience. And that's what we're doing on Thursday nights. So if this resonates with you, please, by all means, come see us. Now, we are made possible by the financial support from people just like you. So if you are able to pay it forward to make sure that, we're here 5 years from now to continue spreading this message, to continue to help other people be able to have a place to talk, to be seen, to be able to go within and just, determine what it is that we're all about. As we share that with others, it's a powerful thing. So if you want to support us and see us around, please, by all means, go to soulevolutioncollaborative.org and click on that donate button. A couple other ways, as always, just to chime in, share this around, go to YouTube and subscribe and and comment on there, and just get involved. We also do Unwind Wednesday meditation. You can sign up for that on the website. I'd love to have you there. Now, if you sign up just for the subscriptions, we'll keep you up to date with all of our newsletters. Reverend Ryan's blog has been wonderful. Lots of good stuff to come. The future is unfolding because we are looking at phase 2. So things to follow. Check it out. Thanks again for being here tonight. And some of you will see Thursday night at the gathering. Others, we'll see you back here next week. Be well, my friends.